8 out of 10 people who start a business go, I want freedom. Like, bitch, you got to earn freedom.
It's gonna,
Amen.
and even then, it's liberty.
I get frustrated by some of the well-done content that paints a picture of entrepreneurship that is not reality.
Thank you.
My small group on Sunday nights is made up primarily of aspiring entrepreneurs. We're learning the mentalities of who they have to become to weather the storm of entrepreneurship. I tell them, like, if you aren't willing to eat dirt and feel like you're insane for an extended period of time,
Years.
It's not.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to another awesome episode of Brews and Business. I'm your host, Brayden.
And I'm your co-host, Abel.
And today we have an awesome guest. Welcome back again, Kyle.
That's right.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on. It's like 5 or 6, 7 at this point.
Dude, you're our,
It's every 6 months.
You're our semi-annual check-in. Today we have two different brews. I have half the episode you're going to see me drinking the Peru Single Origin by Gregor & Coffee Roasters, the official coffee roaster of the Brews and Business podcast. And then the other half of that, I decided to share, not with Abel in the same cup, but in two different glasses, the Mitcher Small Batch Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey that you brought from last episode. So if you didn't hear how that one went, it was really good.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah. I think we both got a little sensitive there, didn't we?
Possibly.
I don't know.
That's why you got to pay for the supporters club.
Yeah, we did that one too. So we're we're figuring out what that looks like too, and I think we have a pretty good game plan and talk through how that technically is going to work too with the guys too. So that's exciting. But you can use code BREWS for 10% off your first order at gregorandcoffeeroasters.com. Grab a cup of that Peru Single Origin. It's really good stuff. So today we're talking about a little bit of this year's expectations and goals for 2025, and that's another reason why Kyle's in here. It's because if you haven't noticed the trend by now, Brews and Business is 2.5 years in, and you helped kick us off.
That's right.
You also caught us in 6 months later for 2024. Yep. I think you caught us halfway through for 2024.
Episode 100.
At the end of 2024, we're now here again.
Yeah, there we are. So it's funny. I just started Unleash the Champ probably about 1.5 years in when I started the podcast.
Yeah.
Got to be on with Mason. And then it's been super fun. Every 6 months, it's like, all right, let's see what's going on.
So if you don't
see
mind,
what's going on, and also keep us I feel like there's some level of expectation and accountable with us both.
Oh,
right. How are you doing? Yeah. And how are we doing?
Yeah.
Did we do the things we said 6 months
That's
ago?
exactly what we started.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's actually kind of one of the great things. Like Brayden says, being with the coach, and you come in here and before the podcast came on, like, hey, how'd your year? Like, oh man, it went great. Crushed some things, and some things got added, and I love that. Again, we're kind of touching base on that for the realities of our lives, right?
No
How
doubt.
we have these ideas, expectations, and then life happens, and we do our best to manage that. And again, that's one of the things that I feel like from our perspective, you've done really great at. And if you don't mind, for people who may not know who you are, Unleash the Champ, what do you do?
Yeah, Unleash the Champ is a training and development company. It focuses on middle managers, managers, directors, supervisors, a little bit of executives. If it deals with people in business, I can help them grow. And it's been a blast. I feel like there's been a few iterations just being on the show. When we first came, it was like primarily one-on-one coaching. Now, through this year, 75-80% of my business comes from corporate training. So coming in, working with teams, and then 30% is the one-on-one. So it's flipped in the last 18 months.
And if I'm not mistaken, that actually happened because we talk about the reiterations. There was a season there where you were doing a lot of speaking engagements and because you were trying to build that brand, and that's kind of where the corporate sort of just kind of happened.
100%. And the shift 6-7 months ago, we're hearing recession, inflation at all-time high, all this. And I said, I'm going to start focusing on budgets, not bank accounts, because companies set aside training and development dollars. And they have to use it or lose it. So why not use it with me and Unleash the Champ?
Is that a part of like some government program too that's subsidized or what?
Some of the stuff I do with Tulsa Tech, companies can apply for a grant to subsidize the cost of training. Otherwise, the companies I work with are typically have that set aside. They work with the HR team and have some dollars assigned for that.
Nice.
It's been great because it allows for greater predictability. Because a local business here. We've already planned 2025's training schedule, and so they may not have the desire to have an on like salary person, but I could come in once a month, twice a quarter, whatever it is, and offer consistent training, an online platform now, which is really slick for managers to assign learnings that I have offered. They can run their team meetings through it. They can do 360 reviews. It's really expansive now.
Hmm.
That wasn't in place a year ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
slick.
That's awesome.
Is it your platform?
So it's through a certification I have. The company's giant worldwide. They're based out of Oklahoma City, and I paid in the certification and fully licensed to use their products. And that was a big shift too. I had a lot of pride around it had to be my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had to come up with it. I had to create it. I had to sustain it. I had to
Had to be you.
It had to be me. Well, there's this book I read often that says there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
And when I had looked into this company when I first started, Unleash the Champ, and they didn't have a white label option. Now they do. It was an easy.
It made sense.
It was an easy yes for me, and so they run all the back end, have support on a global level, and it's awesome.
So I love that because again, touching base with you seems like every 6 months. Braden and I this year we kind of read Who Not How almost at the exact same time, which goes back to the whole thing. There's nothing under the sun that hasn't already been done before, and there's someone out there who's already made it. Who's probably done a better job than you can do it. If you just find the right people, you find the right, whatever it is that you're looking for, it's probably out there. You just got to find one that you fit with, and like you said, the pride aspect of it. I do think as a business owner, man, that's one of the biggest things you got to figure out is where at that point their pride or whatever it may be is being your bottleneck. And this explosion in growth wouldn't have been able to happen had you not just been able to remove yourself from that point of view and be like, you know what? It has to be my name. It has to be. You might have not been able to those opportunities that you did get this year, and that's awesome. Taking that risk, and you just never know.
Yeah, and it really was just understanding that somebody has already proven the concept. They've proven the resources. They've proven and they've been doing this for 12, 15 years now.
Right.
And so I can sit in a training around how to prospect to large companies and then go execute instead of having to come up with all this stuff on my own or whatever. And it's shared equity too, because the resources they put behind their company, I then get to do the shared equity piece of it of like, hey, the resources that I use in Unleash the Champ are also used in Google, Microsoft, Nike, athletic departments across the country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people are like, oh, dang,
Right. Those rapport.
This dude from Tulsa?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What's up?
Yeah.
Helps with a little bit of the credibility part.
100%.
Absolutely.
So backing on some of the reflection in 2024, I was thinking like, I don't know. Yeah, the who not how thing. It's also not just, oh, I need another body to do this task.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like really finding the who. I don't know if everyone knows how to find a who. I definitely didn't. Still don't. Still learning.
I still feel we don't know how.
Do you know how to find a who? And I'm not talking about who in Whoville.
I feel like we have to find. Okay, let me.
Because I have some. We've had some good who's.
Here's our thought process. I think we need to. And we're not here yet, but as we get older, we have to find a who to find the who's. We right now have to be that person that finds all those who's, and we're terrible at it. We're terrible at it. We got to end up finding that one person that just has a good knack to finding the right people for the right spots. It gets tough to do that.
For sure. It's the most important thing we can do in business is have the right team.
Absolutely.
And do y'all have the qualities of the who written out?
No.
Core values?
Skills.
Possibly?
I mean, some of the skill sets, what tasks they're going to do.
Yeah, not the competency, but the character.
Talking about the character.
The capacity. Like, what do you want them mentality-wise, personality-wise? How do you want them to handle themselves? What do you want their same as you would create a ICA for a client prospect, have that for your team. Have that for the who.
It's actually what I've been thinking of doing lately.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I really need to dive into more of the character of that kind of who, because I can teach that person a skill.
Absolutely.
And I've been praising that for last year, but I haven't been practicing. And I'm like, oh yeah, it was, we find a good who in character, we can train skill, but I can't train character. I
Right.
can't teach character.
Right.
And by, by 30, it's a little too late.
For sure.
It's a little
Yeah.
hard to teach character. But
Amen to that one.
And so that would be the first and most important step, is creating a profile for the who you want.
figure out that persona.
So
go
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm staying in the
Well,
category, but
really, I was going to ask. You're the coach here. Braden and I have implemented traction this year, and we have core values, right? And we have found we changed our core values a few times actually, because you had a great person on the podcast that told me my core values are very superficial. So I dug a little deeper, and here we are now. But I found that the core values start to lead us towards that character person, right? Like our core values, I'm gonna miss them right now, but like one of my favorite ones is customer perspective. It's really easy to tell when someone comes in with a 30-minute conversation if they're gonna have customer perspective. And no, you're not gonna be right on the money at all. But if you just kind of talk to them and kind of ask the right questions, and then not the whole, hey, what's your budget versus what do you expect to pay for something like this? You're asking the exact same question, asking in different ways. If you do that to the same person, an interview process, we've started to realize that well, we didn't know what core values were. We just read a book and looked for core values. But as we start to realize oh, that's why Brett from Barnhart, it was like you're superficial, because as you dig deeper, you start to realize your core values are simply character traits. That's all it is. This person has to act and want X, Y, Z, and the rest of that, like you said, can be taught. And I just kind of diving deep into that, we realized that this year, it's man, we're sitting here, we're ignoring our core values, because it's actually really easy. If you just look at the core values and ask the people the right questions, not directly, because everybody's going to give you the answer they want. But if you just, you start to realize that person's not cut out for our team, or that person, yeah, maybe, or maybe the wrong seat, maybe a great person, just wrong seat, put them in a different place. And I definitely think this year that helped us out tremendously. I think we're set on our final core values.
There's a lot of people in business too that I think underestimate the value of core values.
Yeah.
Well,
and
if I had the opportunity to start it all over, I'd start with core values.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the motor that drives everything.
And that's it. And I think that people underestimate them because they expect, and admittedly I did too. Well, I got core values. Everything else is supposed to fix after that. And you said it.
Oh, they're like marketing will fix.
Well, right.
And I'm like, no.
You just said a second ago, you've been doing all this, but you haven't been practicing it, right?
Yeah.
Finding the right who's, but you're not practicing, right? You're just finding a body, and I definitely feel.
Well, I've been trying to find the right who's, but it's also hard. I'm going through learning experiences.
Right. And that's where I'm getting at is, we start to realize it sucks to find the right who when you have your own task list a mile long that you have to do. And in that process, you got to find the right who's going to take off, ideally, some of these tasks and not add some. You talk your monkey analogy all the time, right? And it's man, that's literally, it is the toughest thing we can do. And when you think about being how tough, what can you do to make it easier? It's well, the core values definitely help. And like you said, people underestimate them. And I think a lot of it is, and I've been guilty, but you implement and then you don't follow, you don't practice, you don't preach it, you don't believe it. And it's okay, well, those core values don't do anything. The system only works if you work the system, and it again, with the deeper core values has helped a lot. Now my core values are in Spanish and English. That helped tremendously this year too. So we're oh, I can actually read it. Okay, that makes sense. I'm yeah. So that helps too, which huge. Is very simple. That stuff that you don't think about when hey, I got it done. And then it's yeah, well, most of your crews are Hispanic. You should probably put in Spanish. Oh, wow. Yeah. Right. That seems pretty simple, but I didn't think of that. You're too busy doing everything else.
Yeah. And I think being able to, when people hire me, I've said this before on the show. When people hire me, I go, congratulations, you just hired a CRO. And I'm what's a CRO? It's the chief reminding officer.
Yeah.
My role is to set a path and remind you why it's important. It's the simplest way that I get results for people is we set a path and I remind you why it's important. All the steps in between that is all the nuts and bolts weed stuff.
Right.
But we set a path and I remind you why it's important. And that keeps people on track. And so having those things like that, making sure that your core values aren't just in a handbook, they're on the hearts of your people. Making sure that it goes from the head to the mouth, making sure that it's visible, making sure that it's not just, again, not just on a handbook or even on a wall, because you should be able to walk into your companies and say, hey, what's number 3 of our 4 core values?
Oh, that's what I want to get.
And see,
Almost Pledge of Allegiance like.
For
yeah,
sure.
right.
You know, when was the last time you said that? The Pledge of Allegiance?
Never.
Oh,
I wasn't allowed to in high school.
Last-
In school,
Probably
Really?
was against my religion. So I
2
literally
weeks
have never
ago.
said it.
did
it
you
was-
remember it?
Yeah.
Just like you did in elementary school?
Well, my toddler was leading us in it, so
I
I had to be, yeah, it was a Christmas
That's
program.
where I'm getting at.
Yeah, but
because
no.
like it wasn't that long ago to where I said the Pledge of Allegiance. It was
And you still
it
remember
was
it?
at some
yeah.
event. It was just last year, and I ripped it off just like I was in elementary school, and I was like, "This is weird." My mouth was
Because
just
you did-
moving,
yeah, 'cause you-
and because I did it day in and day out,
Uh-huh.
you know.
And see, I like that because I used to do something this year for our company party. We went bowling, and then afterwards went back to shop, and I got to drink with the guys. I do it probably once a year. I just hang out with the guys, just men being men,
Yep.
you know. And I don't like doing it because, well, to some degree, you got to be the boss, right?
Sure.
But other factors, my wife always went, yeah, but you have to remind them that you're human too,
Mm.
you know. And I got to drink with him. We kind of started talking, and one of my biggest things that I told him this year is like, honestly, you know, I just want to say sorry. I'm like, why? I was like, I just feel like I slacked this year. Like, I just let you guys down. Put those core values up there. Haven't even really had a meeting, like, explain this to you guys. I know you guys see him and blah, blah, blah. But there's no, like, real care. There's no real emphasis behind the practice, right? And I've been a little absent from the shop or whatever. And the repetition aspect, it's like, you know, last year, 2 years ago, I remember every 2 weeks we'd have a safety meeting, and I'd offer $20 for someone to give away to someone else. So, for instance, if we're standing here, I'd tell you guys, hey, one of you guys pick a core value and tell me why someone else deserves that $20 for that core value. And then it's silence for weeks on end. I'm like, you guys must hate each other. You don't want to give somebody $20. They'll buy you lunch if you just give them $20. You just got to come up with the core value and tell them. And it started to buy in, right? And it's something so simple because they're like, man, you buy me my lunch if I, you know, and it sounds silly, but it really was these stupid little things that this year I let everybody down. I didn't do very good about it. And for 2025, that's all going to change. But it's that reality of, like, Victor has a really good sense of repetition is the basis of all retention.
Absolutely.
And it's like, man, you just said it yourself right there. Pledge of Allegiance. I never said it once in my life, and I could still say it right now
Or the
without even
Lord's
thinking
Prayer.
about it. Yeah, I
Oh,
can't do that one.
I can.
I-
Yeah.
I do that one really fast because in athletics, it was like the close of every like team huddle in Louisiana high school football. And so it's
Let's go
like,
play.
our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be the name of the kingdom come, will be on earth as it is in heaven, and give us our daily. It's like, go ahead, ready to break. Like, so sorry for the loudness of that one if you're listening in your car.
No, but it just goes to prove how much, even as adults, right? We're just kids, right? And
100%.
that repetition, that having to buy in to the process is really just, as a kid, man, you didn't care unless you're getting ice cream after that. You don't care. It's
Hey,
just the truth.
You know, I've done a ton of training with Cardone in
Mm.
Miami, 10X Enterprises, all like that.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And they do a 15-minute sales training every day, every morning. First 15 of the day, they go through some principle of their platform
Mhm.
every single day. Every single day.
The sales team?
Uh-huh.
His sales team does?
Yep. And getting to know a few of them. One of the buddies that I met through the speak off that I did now works for Cardone in Scottsdale.
Wow, nice.
And so he's kind of giving me behind the curtain a bit.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've never been a part of an organization that has so much intentionality about who they are and will review like the scoreboard daily.
Right.
And so through some of the training I have, I get access to Zoom into their morning and afternoon calls. So I'll do it a few times a month, not every day, but it's intense. And because of what I've gone through, I can watch it, and bro, it's wild
Hmm.
how clear they are, and it's 15 minutes on the dot, not 14:59, not 15:01. It boom, all right, break, and it just shows the numbers they do. I mean, each of their sales guys has a quota of 150 a month, and however they got to do that through their various products.
Right.
But if Cardone can say from stage, like, yeah, all of my salespeople make at least $15K a month because That's their quota.
Right.
If you don't, you're gone.
Right.
You know, so, but it just shows intentionality too, and buy-in of the team.
Yeah. And I think that's probably another thing that you bring, chief reminding officer. We're all business owners. How many times have you forgot you're the owner? Right. How many times have you really forgot you're the owner? And you're just like, I wish somebody would fucking make a decision for me.
Right.
Like, I'm tired.
With the team just like
30
6
minutes
weeks ago.
Yeah.
No, 6 weeks ago. I looked at everyone's like, y'all forgot, and so did I.
Right. You forget you're the owner. And
like,
it
this
sucks.
is some bullshit.
It sucks.
I was like, I hired you to do a job so then I don't have to do it. So then I don't have to think about doing it and making sure it gets done or it gets done right. I don't mind collaborating with you. I love collaborating. I'm here to help collaborate. I'm here to help push things forward. I don't also mind helping think through and innovating or whatever it is, right? Too, but I'm like,
but do your job.
I don't want to open and close.
Yeah,
like I need someone here that can open and close for the rest of the team, and I want to make sure that when I walk into the office, that it's not a mess. I don't want the dishes in the sink, and we don't have food dishes. We have drinkware dishes,
right?
And I don't want the trashes overflowing. Y'all figure out who's going to do this. And I was like, if one person doesn't want to do it, y'all divide it up between everyone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm also not giving everyone keys. So guess who's getting keys? The top 4 people that I trust the most, who has the most responsibility around here. So you, and you. Y'all figure out who's opening, who's closing. Here's what you need to do.
There you go.
We figured it out.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. But again, sometimes we forget we're the owner.
That's a little thing of part of that conversation.
Yeah. No, but right. But again, the principle's there. The principle's there because you do forget. And not to be a dick, but sometimes you forget you're the owner. You forget you're the one who has to lead that show, set those quotas, hold people accountable, X, Y, Z. And like I said, even personally, like I literally told the guys that this year, like, hey, I'm sorry. And like, wow, I was like, because at the end of the day, it's not your job to figure out if there's enough work coming in. It's not your job to figure out if I got money to pay this.
But it's his job because I hired him to do sales.
Well, and yes. And that conversation did happen, right? And no, but it did happen. And but admittedly, like, as you guys as laborers, your job is to go out there and do the job. And you guys have done that. So on my part, I'm sorry because I could have done better in certain things and so on and so forth. But it goes down to that aspect of sometimes we forget we're the owners.
I made some parts of the team apologize to each other throughout certain things that happened. One was a really big one where a team member made a post with another client's name on their social media profiles that was in the same industry. And it was 7:00 at night and I got a text from the client about it. And I was like, all right, I went and deleted it and I group texted everyone. I was like, somebody tell me who did it. It could have been one of 3 people.
Right.
But everyone was going to see that this is not an easy thing to just kind of let go. It wasn't just let me fix it real quick.
Right.
Like this is going to cost us, like if I don't renew this client, it's costing someone their job. Sure. And whoever posted it, they're going first. And it's not my choice. It's financially the reason. But,
right.
And even if that wasn't the only thing or whatever. And they texted me directly. I said, don't text me because you made everyone else on the team look bad from that one mistake. And also they need to be aware of them working with both clients in the same industry. And we're doing similar things. So I'm like, you need to make sure that they know that it's separate because I can't go out and say, we do great this if you do bad that. And everyone knows us for this.
Yep.
So y'all got to hold each other. It's like you in irrigation and landscape design. You may do awesome design, but if I have a bad experience with irrigation, why am I going to hire you for design or anything else?
Well,
but that's not fair because you've got really good design people or really good rock people or whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's funny. We had that same conversation Tuesday at the shop, but just the whole aspect of, there's a certain expectation out of our clients, and it's up to us to make sure we hold that expectation. And that conversation on Tuesday was very much a similar thing of like, they signed an agreement and we charge a premium. We charge a premium because we are supposed to be able to fulfill that contract without being reminded, now there's things that they're okay. Right. But very similar situation with you. I was like, I have to be called a liar. Like I'm going to be a liar to somebody. So who am I going to be a liar to? And I'm looking at you. Well, I've had to be. I was like, that's not what I'm asking. I know you guys have been in the sales position. I know you guys have had to be liars before. But I asked yesterday if we'd be there this week. And now today, I'm getting told it's not going to happen. From Monday to Tuesday. That's a fucking problem. And now last Monday, I was told tomorrow. And I said, no. I'm going to tell the customer by the 1st of the year, not tomorrow. Because I know it's the fucking holidays. I'm not going to trust that. I can't trust that. So I'm going to tell them. Now here we are. Tomorrow is January 1st. And now I have 2 customers that I shouldn't have to be a liar either one. I gave you a week on one, and the other one, really not that big of a deal. But realistically, you should have said this week yesterday. But like, what the hell? And then there's a whole big fight. But at the end of the day, both of my problems got resolved before the first, well, actually on the 1st of the year. But nonetheless, that's not the point. The whole idea is you expect someone to do their task, right? And it's not so much that you expect them to just ask just because, but you expect them to do the task because your company reflects directly on everybody. So if one person fails, like for instance, our maintenance team, well, there's very small possibility they're going to want us to do X, Y, Z. Again, minor details. But if you don't take care of that minor shit, they're not going to trust you for all the bigger stuff. Like that's just the reality of the situation. Now, we had a great conversation. We came up with a great solution. And as of now, I think the solution's there. But sometimes you just got to remind yourself, right, that, hey, that's important and you can't let that shit happen. And it happened because you made some bad calls. Don't let it happen again.
So as a part of the lessons learned and stuff, this is more over the last 2 years, but I've as I've hired people and trusted them to do whatever it is, I've let it all go. And I'm like, I don't just help me do this. Help me make a post. Help me build a website. Help me make some videos and then communicate with the client, whatever. Well, as we've grown and add new people and also had larger clients
Accounts.
and
Yep.
larger accounts,
Yeah.
it's needed to change process and it's needed to, and as people have joined and as some people have made mistakes, it's also caused new process revisions and stuff. And also as you add new people comes more process and more steps and everything, whatever. So I had to start over in like September, October. I'm like, all right, let me map all this out. So then if you got a question about how it works, you have a place to go and do it. And so as I come to find out that I've, okay, let some of this stuff go, I've had a little bit more time to kind of dive into and go, oh, here's a problem. No, here's a problem. No, here's a problem. And now I just find all these fires, and some of them are bigger than others or whatever, but I'm able to kind of line those out. But as I've let it all go and I'm trying to pull it back in, me and everyone else, we pulled it in too far. And now I'm like, okay, now nobody has any rope and everyone's scared to do anything. And I'm like, okay, there's a balance in all this, like there's I've tried to like communicate expectations and lay all this down. This isn't the first time you've heard any of this stuff. I know it's not.
No.
And you've heard it at all different levels.
Sure.
I know you have.
Yeah.
It is. I bet you his wheels are turning right now in the back of his mind.
That's what I do.
But yeah, that's kind of what I'm struggling with.
And
I like trying to figure out how much rope to let go of and to who. And some of that goes into like I just said it, into the who.
Right, into the right person.
Some people are built for it, some of them aren't.
Right.
And I've had to let some of them go.
Right.
Maybe some training from Kyle.
Come on. It sounds more on
Solid.
competency. But the biggest piece of this, as y'all are both talking, is trust is given, mistrust is earned, forgive quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If you think they're still valuable, trust them fast again.
I like that. Yeah,
Like,
I like that.
If they make a big enough mistake, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But like one of my
not.
clients,
I would say I do that.
One of my clients, he loves to be involved in everything. Nice corporate way of saying that, right? And
That's a nice corporate way to do it.
And my biggest thing with him as we talk is you will stifle and suffocate your growth if you don't get this right.
Mm-hmm.
If one of my mentors is huge on if somebody can do something 70% as good as you with upward momentum, let them have it.
Yeah, that's. I'll carry on with that because it's a lot harder to get something from 80 to 20 than from 0 to 80.
100%.
I'll get it to 80.
Yeah.
And I'll find somebody else will love to get it from 80 to 20, and I will love them for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so in all of these things, it's going, okay, if expectations were clear, documented, reviewed, held accountable, then it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Either put them on a PIP or redeploy them into the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
otherwise treat it almost like an athlete. Hey, throw a pick. That's fine. Get back out there. How quickly can you get them to do the thing again?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think about in athletics, college football's going on when we're recording this, and someone throws a pick. The worst thing you can do is throw them back out there and have them hand the ball off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have them throw that pass again. And you want to have the memory of a goldfish. Again, barring it's not detrimental to the business. It's not all the asterisk things aside.
Right.
But for the most part, go, hey, listen, I understand that you know what you did wrong. We've discussed it. I love that you put everybody in a group text because some of the thing when people know a problem happened and they don't know the solution or the resolution, then it's like, what happened to him?
Mm-hmm.
Well, did Braden even do anything? Did Abel even talk to him?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's wise as a leader to address it and appropriately say, hey, it's done.
You stand by me on that?
100%.
I was called out by 3 people on it.
Why?
By a quarter of the team. Because they felt like I was in a wrong position to call somebody out. The person also didn't like it, but I'm like, it's holding everyone else to account.
Can I ask you something?
Standards. It's letting them know
Were
too.
you called out by the person who did it?
No.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I feel like that's all that matters.
People around here don't like to be called out.
Nobody likes to be calling out. Do you like being called out?
Depending on what it is.
Nobody likes to be called out for being bad or being wrong. Plain and simple.
But I call people out for good things, not just bad things.
Right.
And I give praise publicly too.
Right.
When praise is due, which goes back to the bar thing I've talked about.
Yeah. So I think in that case, it happened in a moment. You were contacted in a moment. It needed to be addressed in a moment. There was some urgency to rectify this thing. Mm-hmm. For the most part, I do lean on confront privately, praise publicly. But in a situation like that, it's happening so fast and the whole team needs to be aware of it. Like, hey, this can't happen again. And so I think being able to have that type of environment, like, hey, y'all call each other on the carpet. But that was an extenuating circumstance. It's
Right.
after hours. The client calls you. By what you're saying, it could,
could lose the business.
Could lose.
It was within 30 days of me asking for a renewal.
Right. And so the stakes were higher. And so it's like, yeah, I would like to operate in this mode of let's have a meeting, let's keep it under. But there's sometimes where you just got to throw the headset and.
That's where I was going to get at. Is I think in that moment, you might have been called out because the reality is you're right. You do publicly call out people for doing great. But sometimes I feel as a whole, you got to make that showing to the company. Like, I hate to say this, but there's a saying that one of my guys told me. Sometimes a king has to remind people why he's king.
That's right.
And that sucks.
What do you mean?
Send anybody in a group text. Sorry you don't like it. I was in an emergency. It was after hours. I was with my fucking kids. That shouldn't even been a problem. That should have never even been a slight hiccup. Aren't you guys capable, competent enough to? Now, I get mistakes happen. I get that. But nonetheless, I'm human too, right? I'm in a position where, again, I'm after hours with my kids, trying to get down to the bottom. I don't feel you were in the wrong by saying, hey, what happened here, XYZ publicly, because admittedly, nobody likes being called out. Nobody liked it. And they said to you because they don't want you to call them out. Not because they're upset at the fact that it was called out. It's because they don't ever want themselves to be on that table to be called out like that. And that's why I feel. But I also feel like that's why it was a good thing. You don't do that all the time.
I encourage them
you
to go.
You almost never do it all the time.
No,
but
I don't.
when you do, it reminds people that, hey, nobody's safe. And admittedly, I've kind of started to do that in my business. Just like, hey, nobody's safe. Why? Because at the end of the day, how many times do we forget that we're the owners? And whenever we forget we're the owners, we start taking it easy on people. We start hemorrhaging money. We start losing customers. We start whatever. The business starts failing the second we stop caring. And sometimes you got to carry a little extra so that everybody else will care like they're supposed to.
Or when the owner tries to exit too early. I'm going on vacation, baby.
Right.
Y'all can figure this out.
Right. Figure it out.
Right.
Come back and 2 of them are gone. There's no money.
Right.
Oh,
what?
Yeah.
I thought I was a business owner.
But admittedly, I
had freedom.
Or I know someone that goes golf. They go golf. They like to golf 2 or 3 days a week. And then they were telling me about how the business is struggling, but it's fine. Like they're staying in business, it's fine, but cash is a little tight or whatever. And they think I'm going to be able to fix it all.
Yeah, if you put an ankle monitor on them.
Take away his golf
Quit
gloves.
going golfing.
Yeah, I'm gonna take your
away his
golf gloves.
How about you work in your business?
Yeah.
Don't just hire me for marketing and ads. Like
Right,
I'm not
right.
going to be able to fix your problem here. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
also you too.
It's gotta be
Like,
fulfillment takes place.
Right.
dude, go make some cold calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard to remind yourself of that. Again, I think as we get older in business and we have a certain expectation of where we're supposed to be, where our business is, X, Y, Z. And I think a lot of times we have to remember that like we're the owners. Nobody's gonna do it for us, and it sucks because then you got to be the bad guy. Then you got to go putting on hats all over again. All those hats you took off, here you go, put them right back on. And maybe you're not going to continue wearing, but you're going to put them back on just to make sure they're getting taken care of properly. Take them right back off, and it's like, man, okay, and it sucks. But again, I think
as I'm doing that, as I'm going through processes and everything,
sucks.
I'm putting on all the hats again.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, all right, well, this sucks, man.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And it does. But
Yeah.
then it makes you thankful for the aspect of your people, right? You do have good people, I believe. Just like I feel I
believe it too, which is also another thing where you hold them to an expectation. I told everyone not long ago, back when I had that same owner conversation, I'm like, y'all set this bar. I didn't set it.
Right.
My bar was here. Y'all brought it up there. And now whenever you guys go below that bar and you go back to like the way I used to do things 10 years ago when I first started, my day one, I'm going to be like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like y'all
less
did
than-
way better than I'd ever have. And then all of a sudden you drop this bar way down low.
Yeah, less than the standard.
Mm-hmm.
It's your standard you set for me.
Right.
Like it was, and I tell people too, I was like, when they usually, I mean, with where I've been, I'll get you to this point for what I know.
Mm.
And outside of that, I need you to be the expert.
Right.
Like I'll teach you how I've done things. I'll teach you a little bit about this. And then some of that I'm going to let you help me figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only get, again, I'll help you get it to 80%, but I can't get it the rest. I'll say that.
And I think kind of circle back to what we were talking earlier. It kind of goes back to, and I think a lot of us business owners probably do this. We know we have to hire people to build. You can't do it all alone. And those people may or may not be real people. It may be virtual assistants. Hell, at this point, it might be AI. But you need help, right? At some point. And I feel when it's people, at least in my business this year, I realized that over the past few years, I have trusted without training. And I don't
again.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, I've been saying that lately. It's like, why? Because I hired someone, just like Brayden, I'm sure you have, and I hired them like, I don't know, figured it out. Like that. I hired you to solve a problem, so solve it. I have other things I got to do. And then I'd move on. And right now it's like really kicking myself in the ass because there's a job that I hired someone to do. And well, they don't know what to do. And they're looking at me to, hey, how do I do this job? And I'm like, I don't know. Like someone else was doing that job. But the person I hire is my wife. So I have to figure out, I have to help her learn how to do the job. Right. And it's like, well, damn. Okay. But
bless you.
Well, it's temporary. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's what is it? Small sacrifice, long-term
There you
reward.
go.
That's how my wife works with
Yeah.
me now?
Yeah.
She's next door.
Yeah.
Man,
I love it.
Bless y'all.
Oh, it's great.
It's not gender
I love it.
ministry.
I love it.
But yeah, I love
but
it.
nonetheless, going back to that makes me realize that up until now, I have hired and I have trusted without training. I had said, hey, these are your tools. Figure it out. Whatever makes it easier for you, but these are your tools.
Here's a shovel, go.
Here's your shovel, go.
Yeah.
And now
just dig a
I'm
hole. And then they dig a hole. And I'm like, that's a tiny hole. How are we going to fit this tree that's right next to it? I told you that tree's going in the hole.
Right.
It's the size of that Kindle hole right
exactly.
there. Like,
and that's exactly where. So now I'm like,
like,
hey,
well, I didn't get it.
This year, we're putting those hats back on. And listen, I'm still trusting. I have but I'm going to figure out what the hell you're doing. I'm going to figure out how to do better. And I'm going to train you how to do better.
That's right.
And then you can continue trusting. And again, I kind of ran myself into the wall a couple times this year learning that. And a couple of my good rocks for this first quarter are going to be figuring out some of those situations where people were trained or were trusted without proper training. And maybe I wasn't able to train at that time, but because there's enough people, and I believe, Brayden, you're in this position now, but because there's enough business to make sure, there's enough people to make sure that the business is at least moving, you can focus individually on certain sections that need to be improved on. So like for me, the sales process at the moment is like, hey, I got a sales guy in here, so I don't have to physically sell 24/7. I can monitor and I can check and make sure everything he's doing. And then I have to figure out how I transfer this from sales to operations and where the disconnect is. How do I fix that problem? And then from there, well, I don't do operations. If there's problems that happen from operations, now it's my job to help the other owner who's in charge of operations figure out his problem on his end. it's way easier once you figure that, but it gets really hard to get to that point. I mean, it's taken 4 years to be able to feel like, oh, I can fix problems now.
So
Now I have to make sales. It's different.
Have you heard about the my Sooner systems? Which I didn't invent this.
No.
I don't think. Acquisition,
Okay.
management, fulfillment, and hiring. The 4 systems of any business.
Right.
You got to figure out how to get business.
Yep.
Right. You got to figure out how to manage the business, both client wise and internally. And then you got to figure out how to fulfill whatever business that you closed. Right. And then once you get all that so busy and no one can handle anything, you got to hire.
That's right. That's awesome. When that launch?
Ing.
Launching. Got it. Yeah. I'm like, hell yeah. That's
It is
awesome.
a 72-page document. I'm going through, like, it's all nitty gritty, like how to, the what ifs. I'm trying to bring up all the scenarios. It's supposed to be a resource.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's a textbook.
Yeah, it's a tool.
It's a textbook.
Yeah.
Learn how to use a tool.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. It sounds like
That's the 20%.
What?
That's the 20%, the 80-20. 80% of it is getting it to this point.
I got the textbook to 80%, and then I printed out everyone's sections, and I gave it to them, and I said redline it.
Well, no. When I say the 20%, I say,
and they did. And I loved it. Everyone redlined their stuff, and then brought it back, and I revised it, and then now we're kind of practicing. And we're like, okay, and I'm like, don't tell me any. I'm not changing any processes. Like, y'all are gonna practice this, and you're gonna redline the documents for the next 90 days, and then at the end of March, I'll review everything that we've addressed last quarter, and then we'll address it, we'll fix it, we'll redefine the process, and you all will do it again the next 90 days. I'm like, if we don't like the way it works, don't care. Do it for the next 90 days, unless it's really broken.
Right. Yeah. You got to have enough.
And most of the time, things aren't that broken. I mean, again, that's the 80-20, man. Your business is running, 80% there. It's running. The doors are open. There's cash flow coming in. 20% is the hard part. Make sure the processes are built in so you can scale properly.
I got a problem now to where there's 4 of us doing internal review.
Well, that's why.
Because I don't do grammar. I can't do grammar to save my life. And,
well, isn't there like a app for that?
And by the time I see something, I don't want to see something and have concerning quality reviews. I don't want to do that. If you send it to me, I'm going to expect it to be client ready. And I'm expect them to be like, I love it.
Right.
And I'm like, don't also send it to a marketing manager unless it's in the same position. Sure. Like, don't make a shitty video and send it over ready for review. No, if you need to collaborate about it before you or have it for review, then do that first. But don't send it to me. And then I'm like, well, there's a glitch here. And why is that text? Why is there a line through that text there? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And the picture isn't even relevant to the caption. I'm not having those conversations.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And again, man, it's
stage of where you're at.
Yeah, right. It's stage of the and it
sucks.
It
sucks, man.
But listen, I tell you this because we started the podcast 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
You had at that point three employees. I think it was you, Devin. I think that might have been it.
Bobby.
Yeah.
And Leslie and Devin.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so it's 4 of you guys.
Right?
Yeah,
Was
and
Maddie
then Leslie left. No.
Leslie
left first, and then Bobby, and then Maddie came in.
No.
Right. So nonetheless, at that point, you're like, hey,
12.
XYZ, you're building process, XYZ.
Come on.
But you said it then, I have all these processes, but nobody to do them. Right. And that's the idea. And I think that probably the wormhole that all business owners get into is they have all these ideas, but until people get in there and start wrecking your processes, you don't realize how crappy your processes are or how much better they could be because all these people come in here and they start wrecking these processes. And it's like, well, it's just easier or it's faster or XYZ. And it's like, well, I never thought about it that way. And I thought it was going to work this way. And then now here you are where at 4 people, sure, it's probably a lot easier to handle your process. Your customer base was different. XYZ. That was the same conversation I had on Tuesday. Our customer base is different. That's the problem. We have elevated our standards. So customers expect that elevated care. And that's a good problem to have, but don't let them down, and that's where you're at right now is like, man, you have elevated both your people, your customer base, your office, everything. But the reality is, I've heard a lot of people say it's one thing to ask for the strength to build what you want. Ask for the wisdom to keep it.
I've got a $3.5 million RFP on my desk.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that.
That's awesome.
Come on, come in soon.
Yeah. But nonetheless, now you're in that process of trying to keep it, right? Because you built a system and not to, like anybody's going to take it away quickly. But if you don't focus on making sure you build a long lasting good company, somebody's gonna take it from you as soon as you give
Well,
up.
and just like with hold on, like was it Howard Schultz, Starbucks, about taking care of people,
That's right.
right? Take care of the people, and they'll take care of your
Take care of
customers.
customers. Yep.
I remember that book. I have it. It's over there.
Home.
It's got the coffee,
Yeah,
Starbucks coffee cup on
yep.
it. It's white. And it's got the
Yep.
little brown little label
Yep.
on it. Mhm.
Yeah, so much of this is just break points of business. Like what you could, and what's when you write all these processes out, when you're the one doing it, it wants wisdom to give it to the people, is because what they don't have that you were able to fulfill using that SOP is your mind and your experience. And you've forgotten more than they know.
Oh man, that's good. Because that's good. You know that sheet that I sent you, where Aaron could literally sell basically anything that we have off that sheet? Man, he has written all over that thing of stuff that I'm like, that's common sense. I know
you
that.
could like.
And then I'm like, the other day I was like, hey, I need to borrow that. He's like, why? I was like, because I'm gonna update it. I'm gonna put it all your little notes that you have on there. I'm gonna update it. He's like, wow. I was like, yeah, a lot of good shit in there. That I just thought that was like, that's just in here, bro.
Right.
But he doesn't know it. And then again, but if I'm trying to hire another nobody that knows nothing to do the exact same he's doing now, I need all those little notes that he has. And again, that was me passing it to him and saying, hey, this is your scratchbook, but I need you to write some good notes in here because I'm going to take it back from you. I'm going to update it and print you a new one with all your pretty stuff. And you can keep doing that. And then ideally the next guy will come in. But that's a really good point. We've forgotten more than they know.
I'm going to carry on. Can I explore a frustrating thought with you?
Absolutely.
I like that.
We're going to explore this.
Okay.
I'm frustrated with the entrepreneur trend.
Okay.
I think majority of people are idiots for wanting to be entrepreneurs. Who in their right mind would do this bullshit?
Well, I can name 3 people right here.
Don't yet. So,
but
you know how much, and we talked about this too on one of the episodes, about how much of a liability you are to your family.
1,000%.
Yeah, are you kidding?
Like, if you go out, then what?
Life
you
insurance.
got life insurance, that's great, but then what? Like, you're still, what if you had other people? I'm a liability to everyone in my business right now.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
If I go out, they have no clue what to do.
Right.
I mean, sorry, they have a clue what to do. But I'm giving so much direction over the last 3 to 6 months that there's not enough time to get really everyone to know what I know in the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
So over the last 90 days, it's been trying to get my wife up to speed for what I know over the last 10 months in business. And even though that we've been together for a little over 5 years, it's not the same.
No.
As being in it day in and day out.
So the frustration is what? That people just want to be entrepreneurs?
Partially. Yeah. And it's wrecking multiple industries, and there's a huge trend for it. The whole Gen Zers are especially wanting to be entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And you've had these baby boomers to where
I'm in a different industry.
Different kind of mindset. What do you mean?
I had that issue in COVID.
What?
Everybody wanted to be a landscaper. Had nothing else to do. It was an essential business. Boom. Right. Everybody and their mother is a cockroach being a landscaper now. And now there's very far and few between because they realize it's hard work. They can go be some Shopify thing or something. So I get that. But in my business, I actually don't have that issue. I'm finding a lot of younger guys who just want to get into trades. And admittedly, they see landscaping like, oh, that's not a trade. But I'm like, dude, it is. Like, it is. But nonetheless, I don't have that entrepreneur. Like, I think at this point, most of the people that I notice, like, they survived the last few years. Like, they survived. It's like, oh, you made it. You got a crew or two. And again, in my industry, I really don't run into those solopreneurs anymore that are like Mo guys. Now, they're out there, sure, but not as bad as it was a few years ago. Now, I'm sure that's different now because AI and computers, I feel like since COVID has fucking boom exploded. So again, that's where the different industries is maybe I could see that.
I continue that on with the processes and stuff. Carrying that between I'm a liability in my business and everything's in my head. We've talked about that and trying to get it out of your head onto paper and not from out of your head into someone else's head because now it's just 2 people. Right. And what happens if they are not there anymore? Now you got to know everything they know. And there's nowhere for anyone else to reference it. Like if he didn't write it all down on paper, how are you able to revise it?
Right.
Well, you'd have to sit down with him. You'd have to have a meeting.
And he'd have to try to remember everything that he forgot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of the frustrating kind of more of like a pot of just kind of some thoughts in there that they're all relevant.
Well, and I think too, what did I not call myself in the beginning, a coach. I don't call myself a coach anymore. Everybody,
It's a
a
coach.
lot, the market.
You're a life
flooded.
coach.
Right.
I have one of those.
And first podcast probably went back, and you could go back, and I probably called myself a performance life coach about that time,
Mm-hmm.
because
wanna say
that
you're
was
probably right.
one, it was appropriate to what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
what the problem I was solving. But I had the same frustration because it was like everybody, there's a confidence coach, and there's a this coach, and there's that coach, and I'm like, man, I'm not taking the advice of anybody I wouldn't want to swap lives with.
Mm-hmm.
And so the frustration is, I am for people starting out and wanting to be entrepreneurs. I wouldn't have done it how I did it. Had the idea. 2 weeks later, I'm starting this thing.
I would start with
Daughter
big
was 8
pockets.
months old. Had a little bit of runway. Overspent on a coach that I got, like, in services I didn't need and wasn't ready for. All of this stuff. 4.5 years in, I was like, okay, cool. Like, we're good. But I tell folks, like, man, count the cost. Like you said, are you secure? If you couldn't see yourself doing this forever, man, may not be wise to start.
Because you're unemployable.
Yeah. Well,
For sure. Yeah, there's a massive gap. What
So-
you've done the last 4.5 years? I mean,
I was
some
a coach.
things. Right.
For what?
I'm a coach. They're like, oh, what
Okay.
sport?
Yeah, right.
Business.
Right. Fuck, that's a hard sport.
I
I'm telling you.
discourage people from getting into business.
Now,
We
I
need more
wanna-
people in the workforce, more good people in there, and we need less people in entrepreneurship. We've lost a lot of good people in the workforce between baby boomers and Gen Z,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I think we need good people. I don't think we need everyone being a business owner.
No.
I think a lot of good people work for bad business,
Yep.
bad management.
Yeah.
And they go, well, I'm going to start my own coffee shop instead of working for Starbucks because I don't like my manager.
Right.
Well, no, not necessarily, because you have no idea what you're getting into.
Right.
And while
Yeah.
that's fun and cute and exciting for the first 6 months, year,
Right.
oh, now you got a kid on the way.
Mm.
Now your roof needs repaired. Now you've got to move. Now
Yep.
you've got 4 kids. What about life insurance?
Right.
What if you need a manager?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can figure that stuff out. And yeah, there's learning experiences.
Sure.
And yeah, we're clearly been talking about everything we've experienced and learned and stuff.
Absolutely.
And I'm not praising, but like I've made it and done it, everything else either. Right.
But it's hard.
But it's not for everybody. And I'm telling you, in my experience, I'm 10 years chained into this.
But-
I would discourage someone from doing it.
Okay.
And I tell my brother wants to start his own thing. And I'm like, please don't. I'm like, ride my coattail. I'll give you a lot of the flexibility and the freedom. I need you, like, if you acted like a business owner here, you will get paid. I'll pay you like a business owner.
Right. And I think that's an important piece.
Mm-hmm.
That if we spoke more about entrepreneurs,
Mm.
I think people would understand that you could be the number 2 in a company
Without the
and-
liability.
Without the liability.
Sometimes they make more money than number
More-
one.
Most
I-
of the time, I feel
so-
like they make more money.
Right.
Most of the time. If they're good, bro,
Oh, absolutely. Because
pay
the
him more so he
business-
doesn't leave.
Hello. Like, I think about, again, this last year I've done a lot with the 10X crew. Jared Glant is Cardone's number 2. He makes multiple 6 figures a month,
Nobody knows who that guy is.
and very few.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know who he is.
He like MCs the events, from a front facing standpoint. But he's Grant's number 2, and Grant attributes his hockey stick to Jared, and very few people know who he is.
Mhm.
Because Jared came in as a sales guy, showed value, came up with ideas, never wanted to do his own thing, funneled the ideas to the business owner, Grant, and now they're both wildly successful.
Mhm.
He's got a wife.
And
couple kids.
he could very well have some stock,
So
but it's
Oh, I'm
probably not
sure.
stock A.
Yeah,
It's probably
like-
not voting rights stuff. It's probably B, C, D, F, whatever.
So let me ask you
You
this.
know, he probably gets
You-
good benefits.
You just threw out your point of view on this whole entrepreneur thing, and Kyle did too. Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that that you're in it? I mean, just straight up that you're in it. That you want to convince other people not to necessarily be business owners because you've been here, you've been through it. You feel that has anything to do with the fact of you're tired of it. You're tired of that whole process of, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be this and that. do you think that has anything to do with the fact of we've been in it now collectively for over 20 years, right? When you put all the numbers together, I know we've seen people start, fail,
Sure.
move on, whatever, keep going, do better. But do you feel like you want to tell people that because you've had to experience it, or do you feel like you want to tell people that because you simply don't feel most people have it in them?
Yes, and yes, most people don't have it in them.
Sure.
Most people don't have the emotional, the mental,
I will
the
agree.
physical, the financial grit. Definitely, I don't have the financial grit to be able to deal with all the bullshit that goes up and down, but the
You're
business
doing so
does.
far.
Right.
I
So
mean,
far.
but personally, like if I started this the way that it is now, I don't have the financial grit for it. But
Right.
personally, like
Right.
if I just like I'm gonna start it tomorrow, like it would
right,
just
yeah.
be me,
Right.
you know. And that's a huge risk to a family of 5.
Right.
Right? I wouldn't
sure.
do that. The other part of that is that's just my experience.
Yeah,
I've had
yeah.
enough conversations with people on the podcast, with enough people in marketing. Marketing's, I would say, I would account marketing, legal, and accounting are pretty damn close to knowing everything that's going on in the business. I don't know anything about your side of things. Maybe you do too. Maybe you could
People
relate to
side,
that
yeah.
more on the people side. But accounting, like you know everything about
Everything.
the business. Oh my man, it's like naked.
Yeah. Right.
And marketing a little bit too, but it's kind of like right behind the accounting side because I'm like, well, I've got to figure out how to drive sales and I've got to understand
Mhm.
numbers and I
Right.
got to understand lifetime values and what's the cost per new customer and what's the markup and what are the margins for this and is it worth spending, $10,000 a month on Google ads in order to get these amount of clicks? Like there's a lot of more math that goes into it. So anyways, my experiences, I feel like there's some attributed to that. I discourage it from that. I see that there's a lot of people too that have been in business and it's them and 3 people since day one and they're 45 years into it. And you know what's going to happen to the business? It's going to die. It's going to
For sure.
die when that owner dies. And what's left behind that business? Nothing. All he did was get into business so that he didn't have to work for somebody else. He made enough money to take care of him and his family and a couple people to just do the job.
So
And I talk with with the oil and gas guy that I work with.
yeah. What's his name?
Yeah, I can't. He's
Don.
no. Well, I mean him too. Like that's crazy. Like Don was 53 before he started his business. Raised $150 million in capital with a couple other guys. It's called the Oil Fan Group, and they sold. He just sold his 4th company. The first one sold for 800 million. 150 raised,
Chilling.
sold for 800 million, split between him and some guys. You know what he does now? Festivals.
Whatever
Whatever
he wants.
the
much.
fuck he wants.
Right.
Like that's cool. Either he and we go back to the original question: are you lucky or smart? Well,
Yes.
my best caption that I've heard from people is they go, "Well, I create my own opportunities for
Right.
luck."
Right.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like I'm not just lucky. I didn't just roll the dice and I got 2 6s.
Right.
Right.
No, I was able to roll 2 6s because I rolled it.
Right.
Because I kept rolling.
Because I kept rolling. I kept rolling.
rolling.
I kept rolling.
And
But anyways, that's my big answer for like
Yeah.
why I think I discourage is I agree on those 2 points you made, but then I also don't think that where people go is like at some point I will exit. So when am I exiting and how will I exit? And how will I also make sure that between now and then that I reduce the amount of liability or risk I have on me and my
right.
closest people.
And well,
So I don't know that I discourage somebody. I want to give all the cards. that I've
right.
learned.
That's what I was gonna do that.
Because for me, I want to be in a place like at the end of bold prediction season,
85. 90,
end of
100.
end of 2025, I want to have at least one other person working for
Oh,
Unleash
yeah.
the Champ.
Yeah.
5 years in, want to get
do
an
time.
office.
Yeah.
And that because the business created
The need.
and me fulfilling everything is not doable by desire. Capacity, yes, of a 3 and a 5-year-old.
Oh, dude, we feel you here.
Like we all get it.
Capacity.
I feel like we are growing as dads together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly
It's
right.
Yeah. My daughter
New
bangs on the front door
podcast,
when I
Growing
leave.
Dads podcast.
Yeah, right.
But I just tell people like you have to earn freedom.
Yeah.
I lead a really large networking group here in Tulsa.
Mhm.
And always people joining it. And they got this thing or that thing or whatever little side hustle they want to build into something. And they 8 out of 10 people who start a business go, I want freedom. I'm like, bitch, you got to earn freedom.
It's gonna
Amen.
be a minute.
Clip
It's
that.
And
gonna
even
be a
then,
minute.
it's liberty.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not even freedom.
Well, who's it? I think
Liberty's
Jocko,
limited
discipline
freedom.
equals freedom.
Right. And
Simplest way to
so
put it.
I get frustrated by some of the well done content that paints a picture of entrepreneurship that is not reality.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, that's the kind of shit.
That's what I get
That's one of my
frustrated
frustrated
Okay,
buckets.
so
Yes.
so that's where I was getting at. That whole theory. You can keep going, but that's exactly
So
it.
part of like my small group on Sunday nights is made up primarily of aspiring entrepreneurs. So we're learning the mentalities, the tactics, the discipline, the practicality of who they have to become to weather the storm of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
So I love those folks because one, I love helping them. Two, it's paying some bills. But I tell them, like, if you aren't willing to eat dirt and feel like you're insane for an extended period of time,
Years.
It's not. For
don't
you.
do it.
Yeah.
And people have
Big
asked, like,
spoon.
man, 4.5 years in, I told Ginger, I said, man, July 1st, 2025, I need to throw a party. Like, that's 5-year mark. That's a big deal. The statistics were against me, everything like that. And people are like, man, how have you kept going? I'm like, grit and delusion.
I'm a little crazy.
I'm a lot crazy. And I have a belief that what I see with my eyes closed will come true. And that, if full circle, back to the who. Entrepreneurs have a who profile.
Oh yeah.
And if you could talk to them and you're like, okay, if you're bought into it, I'm going to pour fire on it.
Oh yeah.
Now, I may not, I'd be like, look, I'm for you. I'm not for your product, but I like you. How many deals in Shark Tank have gotten guys?
yeah.
Oh, I was getting ready to say,
Because
my
they're
wife
like,
and I've been
I
watching
don't-
Shark Tank.
I don't like the product, but I like you.
Right.
Yeah,
And I want to buy into you.
Right.
that's what the
Barbara,
majority
I
of the
think
time
is-
they'll buy. It's either that or they don't really not crazy about the person, but the money's there.
Right.
But majority
I
of the
think
time,
Barbara-
the person has to be there.
Barbara buys the person,
More
more
than
than the
Yeah.
product.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you-
Mr. Wonderful is like worth the money.
right.
Right.
Mark will buy it if he thinks his daughters will like it. Like, you know, it's
Hey, that's
like,
a pretty safe buy though.
right. And so I don't want anybody listening to this. I don't think any of us are saying to not go into entrepreneurship.
Mm-mm.
You just have to count the cost.
You have to understand and
Know
be
what
willing
you're know what you're getting into.
yeah.
So
to a point.
Well, here's
If you knew, okay,
I would
let me ask
spend
this.
Go ahead.
spend as much time as I could learning from people who have been in it
For
at
sure.
least 5 years plus.
that's yeah.
But if we were told that when we started, would we have listened?
No. There's that who profile.
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't listen
And
anyways.
so we're the curmudgeons on the porch.
right.
But when I say discourage,
Yeah.
I mean I'm not your first person to be like, yeah, go do it, and here I'm in
For
front of you.
yeah.
I'm like, you know what you're getting into.
so
So when we've talked about it several
that's
times,
exactly what
I'm a little bit more of the balance on that. I'm like, okay, let me be a little bit more prepared. And I'm very gung ho.
Yeah.
But there are certain things, there's a lot of things now to where I'm like,
But-
what are my risks on this? Like
for
if I
sure.
just come out with this Brews and Business hoodie, okay, it's $50. I'll spend one, you and me, whatever. Like some of this merch over here, Brews and Business, like
Yeah.
I'll just go shoot it and let's just go do it. Let's buy it and let's put it on the site and see if
Right.
it does anything. Great, whatever. You know, let's make some posts. If the post doesn't work, okay, great. Like gung ho about certain
Yeah.
stuff. But when it comes to like now, when I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to drop $300,000 on something,
You're right.
well,
Right.
hold
Different.
on.
Right.
You know,
Right.
hey, if I'm going
Well-
to drop for it in my next 4 years of my life on something, that's also something that I've reflected on Blue Studio about. Spent 2 years of my life on Blue Studio.
Yeah.
Also 2 years of my life on Brews and Business.
Yeah.
So the risk to reward.
Right.
The risk
right.
is I've lost 2 years now that Blue Studio is over. I've
Right.
lost 2 years of my life to something that didn't
say
come to
it's
any
lost,
financial
but-
fruition.
Well, what was it?
It's gone. It's lost.
Yeah, and I would see that.
You
And
know.
I think with that, you know, again, kind of wrapping back all the way back. For one, not everything, I think as a business owner, you start to realize not everything is a financial benefit. At some point, you're paying for knowledge.
Yep.
Okay, so
You
I
di- you
spent
didn't-
about
you didn't
$84,000 in
lose
the last 4 months with learning
right.
experience.
And that's what I'm
Learning.
saying. You're not necessarily
It's some
losing.
expensive mistakes.
It
My
is.
wife's
Yeah.
like, "Where did that money go?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
See what
right.
had happened was
Right. No, and that's okay. And that's what I was going to get back to, the discouraging the entrepreneurs is. So I used to tell people I was a landscaper. Somewhere along the lines, I changed that to say I own a landscape business. And the response from people was completely different. When you say I own a landscape business, again, there's the who character, right? I'm like, I no longer am an employee. I own this business. I need to carry myself that way. I need to look at the business this way, X, Y, Z. So when it comes to like discouraging entrepreneurs, and I love these. I literally had someone reach out to me yesterday and said, "Hey, how do you feel this business would do in Tulsa?" I think it's great. If I'm being honest, I paid for that service for a year because I did some research. Here's what they charge. Here's what they expect. This is what I expected. Here's kind of what, admittedly, man, I'd hire you because I'm tired of picking up my dog shit. So come by and pick up my dog. Yeah, absolutely. Where are you living now, though? Oh, well, I live in Chakotah. You're driving all the way to Tulsa for $15 is rough, brother. You need to find a neighborhood in that area. But okay, well, what about XYZ? And I'm like, okay, first of all, I've already been here. I've already looked at all this shit. I know they use a certain CRM software that I like. There's certain processes that they did that I like. Now, this is I think I hired like Poop 911 or whatever, like one of the national companies, but they had a process. I was doing my research, right? Looked at how much they charged me, XYZ. I even watched the guy a couple times out of my window, just to everything. I was doing my research. I was going to start that business. And he hits me with it. And I'm like, hey, great idea. Yes, it'll make it. Here's what I think you need. Boom, 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 boom. He's like, hey, well, I thought about doing it this way. I'm like,
Go for
yeah, good luck. Well, I mean, I'm like, dude, you're talking $15 per week per house. That's a far drive for $15. Now, that's great. I get it. But unless, in my perspective, unless I'm going to go out and drop 3,000 mailers in one day and hopefully pick up 100 customers in that same neighborhood, do you have the money to do that? Well, no. Can you print them out? Can you just go
that's
knock on
the
the
kind of
doors?
stuff I'm talking about.
Like, but
Yeah.
and the reason I said that to him is because, again, we've been here, and that's the only reason we know.
Yep.
That's where I go. Be
I'm not
prepared
saying-
before you just get started.
Right, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. No. By all means, do it. But I'm letting you know
Understand.
that
We've
there's
driven
more
this
to it.
road.
Right, there's more to it than that. I was like, and I'm not trying to be hateful, bro.
I'm gonna just go
But-
buy a pooper scooper at Lowe's for $15 and
And
just
you
go start a
can.
business. Like
And
you can. Yeah.
But reality is me personally, I'm not paying $15 a month for you to come pick a week. Sorry, $15 a week for you to come pick up dog poop out of my backyard. If I'm not getting an email or a text, when you shoot me a text that says, "Hey, we're going to be on your way today," great. Get a text after an email afterwards of a picture of my gate closed that's timestamped. Great. I'm sorry, but that's why I paid
Yard's
$15.
clean, smiley
If you
face.
never
Right.
text me, if you never send me these pictures, if I don't ever nothing, and I get a hand or I expect to deliver a check or whatever, bro, I'm out. I
Right.
want you to just charge my card and come pick up the dog shit. It's a different customer base.
For
And
sure.
I learned this from being in the industry. I learned knowing, hey, well, certain people will only pay X amount for a mow. But yet, if you go in the right customers, in the right neighborhoods, the people will pay what it's actually worth to mow. And they expect a different quality X, Y, Z, and blah, 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 blah. So again, I asked that question with the aspect of, do you think it has more to do with the fact of you actually know what it takes to start and run a business than it is the idea? Because these people come to us with ideas. So I always like to ask, what's your goal for the business? And they're like, what do you mean? Why do you want to, for instance, yesterday I said, what's the goal for the business? Well, my wife was just ready for me to start something.
Not good enough.
You know, I don't think that's a bad reason.
Sounds like you need a hobby.
I do feel like that's a good
Start
reason
skateboarding.
because you and I both know that your wife, dude, that's a driving force behind anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
We all three know.
And kids.
Your wife and your kids are the driving force behind any success you will ever
I told
achieve
my
as a
brother
man.
when his wife was pregnant with twins, it's like there's nothing that's going to give you a swifter kick in the ass.
It's
than getting
true.
ready to have
No doubt.
kids.
It's true. So
Like you will figure
on one
something
end,
out.
I approve of that message. On the other end, I'm like, hey, think about it though, because you two have a family of 4 or 5. You know, like there's things you need to factor. And while I think you could do it, it's great. It could be X, Y, Z. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, the biggest thing I was thinking of, you know, it's a low cost of entry and blah, blah, blah. I said, low cost equals low value. High cost equals high value. Look at an electrician versus a pooper scooper. How much does it cost to get started and how much do they charge per hour?
That's right.
It's that
Does it
simple.
take 8 years to be an electrician?
Yeah, something like that. But you charge $150 an hour right out the gate
At least.
versus $15 per house to clean up dog shit once a week. Like it's relative. And I'm not saying it's easier. It's not easier. It's just different.
The other thing
Right.
about being an entrepreneur is we get really excited to start something new. Oh, I have this
Yes.
business idea. No, let's do this and let's add this new product. Let's do this service and let's sell this and that. Well, we could upgrade that and whatever else. Have you ever heard about the woman in the red dress?
Mm-hmm.
She walks by and you're like, oh, Remember that
Explain
Alex
why I smacked the
Ramosi
shit out of you.
he talks about how in the Matrix, remember the woman in the red dress?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And you're one of them or you're one of us. You
Right.
pick one.
Right.
You know, and us as entrepreneurs, we have to be careful about that. I have a client that has started and sold over 40 businesses, and now I'm following somewhat in his footsteps on learning on some of the things. And they're in finance, and so he's very inundated, very smart guy. He's headed towards opening an office in London, I believe. Has international clients in Singapore and Europe and Asia and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Whatever else. And he's like, don't start another business. It's a terrible idea, especially one in another industry. So a whole new vocabulary, whole new demographic of customers, whole new different kind of people that you got to hire.
That's why Pooper
all new
Scooper's
different
riding mine.
processes. He goes, if I took the last 20 years of time that I spent buying and selling these businesses and put that into what I've been doing for the last 30 years, I'd be in a completely different spot.
Mhm.
Take that time and energy, put it into what your heart and soul love to do, put it into what it is, and watch. Don't be excited about the whole new shiny thing. Because I was telling him, I was like, oh, I'd love to buy and sell businesses because that's where billionaires are made or whatever,
'Cause
right?
We need 7 streams of income.
Yeah. The average entrepreneur has 7 streams of income. What do you have? 1? Loser.
Right.
I mean, technically, I got 2. My wife works too, bro.
That's right.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, the whole conversation about being an entrepreneur is what's kind of frustrating.
But again, I
You
think
know,
I think when
So-
anybody comes to 2 points. One, everything we say should be true, but not every true thing should be said.
you can't handle the truth.
you can.
Right. So I one of my leadership axioms, a standard of me, is I remind myself of that. 2, if someone wants to schedule a meeting and ask questions, my question to them once they've given their little spiel is, who do you want me to be right now?
That's good. I should ask that more.
When do you ask that?
Like after they, say someone, I want to start a business. I want to talk to you about, I want to do what you do. Okay, great. Tell me about why that excites you. Tell me about what would frustrate you about it. Okay, I think I got a good basis of who do you want me to be right now?
That's true. Because you
And
want a
they'll go,
cheerleader or you
"Well,"
want a coach?
They'll go, well, what do you mean? So do you want me to say that I think
That's a great idea.
it's a great idea, go for it,
Let me
and
tell you it's a bad idea and
run down the
stop, or-
sidelines? Do you want me to be more of a consultant that asks some questions that maybe could clarify some things? Or are you just excited and you want somebody to say great job? And then I shut up until they answer. And 2 of those I'll do easily. The one that's more coach, consultant, entrepreneur
That's what
that's
you do.
been there, I'll say, so based on what I'm thinking and what I see from what you've said, there's some things that are probably going to frustrate you. Are you still okay with that?
Consent.
Right. Because I want them, if they do go through this thing, I want them to come back
Succeed.
and say, hey, I made this progress. I did this thing. And so I don't want to spend my energy on anything that doesn't yield a return. Anything. If I do that, that's when I get frustrated. And so I'll just ask, like, who do you need me to be? I just really, I'm excited about it. I want to tell somebody. Great. Awesome. You did that.
Excited for you.
I'm
going.
pumped for you.
Yeah.
Keep
Good job.
going.
High five.
Yeah.
Right.
And let that be okay.
Yeah.
Because we do for a few what we wish we could do for all. The few that do say, hey, I want you to poke holes in this. Hey, maybe your underwater basket weaving course
Should be above water.
isn't going to be successful.
Right.
Have you identified the market? Okay. Or pooper scooper. Hey, have you done this, and this? In that, Well, I think it's still a great idea.
Yeah, I
and
was like,
that's when we go.
it's a great idea. Just tweak it.
Or when pushback is given, because when do people change? People change 1 or 2 times. When they want to or they're forced to.
Mm-hmm.
In that, he didn't want to change his idea, and the market will force him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I talk about too,
literally
about
loved it at
people
that.
who
I said,
want
"Hey,
to come
bro,
in
you go ahead,"
and
but-
try to like disrupt the industry. And I'm not the only one to talk about that either.
Right.
No, yeah.
And I'm like, there's only so much that you can change about the industry before the buyers don't get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Then
Yep.
no, this is the industry standard. This is what I'm used to paying for. This is what I'm used to buying. I'm okay with a little innovation, but don't change too much.
Right.
Yeah, try to poop scoop company 20 years ago.
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yeah, it was
The market
us
would have been
as
like, what?
kids.
Right. It would have been us as kids. Now that we're all adults, we're like, dude, I'm tired of
I'm
cleaning that
tired of
crap
doing
up.
that.
Somebody, $15, sign me up.
Yeah.
Can you power wash my trash bin
Dude,
for
I
an extra
didn't-
10?
On our backyard, I got 2 dogs.
Yeah.
It's bad, dude. My bad.
They didn't get scooped for a whole month.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's 5-gallon bucket.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd be like,
Millennials are-
David, get out here and
we're
come help
talking
me.
about the market here. It's exactly that. Back in the day, the market was, well, you kids.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was different back then. And now, again,
Yeah.
disrupting that market. And again, with you just said that, right? Where maybe they don't want to, not just him, but anybody, maybe they don't want to because they have this idea. And like you said, and I did the same thing. I was like, hey, man, I'm just telling you the research that I did. And you could take somebody's experience who paid for the service before. I didn't just start the business. No, I was a customer first.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then,
I walked
but if
it.
you want to do it, you go for it.
Go for it, man.
So going back to be prepared or just get started. You want to hit this real quick?
Let's
before
hit
we
it.
quit? So these are part of the podcast where we started the Diary of a CEO conversation cards. This is a really cool podcast. And the whole point of these is empowering true human connection. This is how it works. The defining value of that continuously drives humans as a collective, but also the Diary of a CEO podcast is connection. These cards have been designed to empower you to stimulate raw, honest, unfiltered conversations like you've never seen before.
I love this.
There's been some
Right.
good questions, man.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right.
None of us have seen these before either.
No.
So,
Do you do enough to keep learning?
ooh, yes.
No.
Keep learning how. I mean, both in life.
Keep
and-
learning? Yes. Do I do
Business.
enough to keep implementing? To be determined. Because learning, sure.
I don't like to learn anything I can't implement.
Well,
Otherwise, it's just
Oh.
in and out.
Okay, can I ask you
Okay.
this?
yeah.
Do you read as much as you want to?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you?
That's why I said no.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, but when I say that, it's different because I'm like thinking about what is the learning, and it's like right now I'm learning to do something on my truck, and I haven't got to learn on a car in a long time, and that's really fun. But
Have you read this
No.
book?
Incredible.
which one?
Never Split the Difference?
Oh man, I listened to it and I stopped and I was like, I gotta buy this book. I can't
Yeah.
listen to books. I gave up on listening to books.
Sometimes I have to listen
can't
to them. Every now and
process.
then I go through phases to where I have to listen because I'm
Right.
like, I'm too busy to read, but I have to consume.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here and listen to music.
Right.
You know?
See, and I think the reason I've done this to myself is a lot of people have asked me like, oh, what do you do whenever you're stressed? What do you do? It's like, well, I have 2 things that I do for my R&R. I read and I run because they're the only 2 things I can do where I can't do anything else while I'm doing them.
Right.
And if I
Yeah.
if I listen to a book, I can
Yeah.
work and I'm
Yeah.
not paying attention to the book. I can drive, I can whatever, anything else that's not actually paying attention. But if I'm reading the book, I physically, my whole being has to be
Has to
there.
be.
Yeah.
focused
So-
So that may be my last audiobook.
And
Because
that's the
of
only
that
reason why I
reason, sure.
stopped. Because like,
Yeah.
man, I went through like 3 or 4 and I was like, man, I love the audiobook. Like, this is
Yep.
awesome. And then I was like, I don't remember crap that I read.
Yep, you get distracted because
Yep.
you can do other things.
Yeah.
Right.
And not that that's bad.
No.
Not that's bad, but it's got its place. Like driving, perfect. But if I'm sitting behind a desk, I probably shouldn't be trying to listen to a book that I want to listen to. I just need to put on some random BS background stuff.
Yep.
But again, I think it's relative. We all have our own things. The reading thing I've always wanted. Right now, I'm actually started reading in Spanish again. That's hard as shit. I know how to read in Spanish, but I read this whole book. I probably read 18 pages before my mind finally was like, click. That's right. You're reading in Spanish. Now you comprehend. I was like, man, this is bad. I need to start reading Spanish more because I don't want to lose that. You know, I'm
Right.
trying to teach my girls right now. And I'm like, it's been maybe 10 years since I read anything in Spanish. Like, that's bad.
Wow.
But it's really fun to read. I'm reading a business book about it. So I'm like, oh, this is
Awesome.
cool. These are words I've never even seen in Spanish. So it's kind of fun.
That always helps.
Yeah. I mean, here's the way I see it. I think if I'm able to comprehend business in 2 languages, I should be able to understand business period more.
Right. Absolutely.
There's definitely different cultural differences in business with Hispanic Mexicans, plain and simple, and Americans. And being that I'm in the industry I'm in, I think that could be very beneficial.
No doubt.
So that's kind of why I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna
It's a
start reading some
differentiator
Spanish.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna start reading some books in Spanish, and not only that, it's an easier way for me to elaborate and talk to my guys because like I can talk to them in English all day long in business terms, but then I'm like, how do I say that again? I gotta pull out Google. It's like when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, I know what all these words mean. Yeah, we can talk now. So it's different. But when I say the do I do enough to learn, I think I always want to be learning more, and I think that's just kind of how I am, you know.
100%.
And kind of like you said, I think
Part of the
we learn it and then we implement it, and I think that implementation is also part of the learning process, right?
For sure.
Like, we learn it and like, I don't like the way that did, or oh, damn, that was nice. You know, yeah, it was nice. Need to do it again. Practice. I can learn some more.
Yeah, let's rerun that play.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up today's episode, what are some of your 2025 goals or objectives? Things you want to accomplish? You got a couple things?
A person underneath the brand of Unleash the Champ besides me.
Okay.
It's either going to be an operations or I think probably an ops person first. But ideally 2. BHAG 3. Because I would do ops, sales, and then another speaker trainer. One that didn't get accomplished in 24. I could not find the person. So anybody listening, an illustrator. The children's books are written, but I don't know somebody to bring them to life.
That's good.
I know we talked a few connections that just
Yeah.
never like I have in my head what I want these characters to look like. Because I want them to be cartoony enough that they can be animated.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where I can see it.
I thought I had those connections. I don't.
Yeah, so
I did look into those. So there's your answer. A little late.
What's your character look like, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what type of, is it like a Rat Fink type character? Is it like Rugrats type character? South Park?
Like Pixar.
Okay.
So
we're talking legit characters here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Let me show you.
Shout out to Pixar.
Yeah.
We need an animator, illustrator over here.
I don't even know where to go.
Oh, dude. Okay.
So that's the mock-up. Of
when did you have this?
That's cool.
I've seen this.
Yeah.
I feel like last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
And so, but in the meantime, I have 5 books written.
That's awesome.
Books ready.
So you need an illustrator.
Prompts, illustrator prompts.
Actually, I do know a guy. His book is over here, and he's local. He's a TPS teacher.
Okay.
And he had someone do his books. Nice. So
yeah,
maybe talk to him and see if you liked him, who he used.
And so it's and then I'm working on the Gen Pop book of Unleash the Champ.
Nice.
And so that one somehow to become an author as part of the
Unleash the Champ
titles.
Yeah,
will be a big goal. Fitness wise, I've never had visible abs, and so that's
gonna get some abs this year.
That is a target. Hired a bodybuilder, pro bodybuilder, got his card the whole bit, writing plans, and no other time.
Yeah,
nice. It's the older my daughter gets, the more motivated I am to stay in shape.
Mm-hmm. I told you, 80, bro.
Right,
80, and it sounds crazy, but
so that's and then a big thing. My wife hit me with a gut punch back in November.
Not a pun because of the abs.
Well, motivation, brother.
She really commented on how she goes, we've had more financial success this year than we have in the previous years of the business. She goes, but I felt like you had less fun. Part 2. No, we're wrapping up. And I'm one where I hear something and I go, how do I fix that? Because she was dead on.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I'm normally a big holidays guy. Couldn't really enjoy the holidays anytime that I really was in a scarcity.
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
of if I've created all this business. If I stop doing the action,
If I stop the momentum.
it's gonna go away. It will be as if I died.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
And
I
so
know.
I've already I have a trip for Q1, Q3, and
Vacation?
Q4 planned just with the boys.
Nice.
So different buddies of mine.
Nice.
And that was the thing. So we have a family vacation planned in the summer. I'm officiating a buddy of mine's wedding, and we're going to tack some days on in Florida.
Nice.
It's going to be awesome. But I have a like a retreat, boot camp, men's event type of deal that I'll go to, and then I'm going. Best friend and I were going to a college football game and I shared with him. I was like, dude, I feel like I had a bunch of fun this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, bro, me too. He's like number 3 of some massive company, and so we just said, man, we're gonna pick a game a year. We just on the phone said we're gonna pick a game a year. It doesn't have to be our teams. We're just gonna go to a college football game a year.
Right.
But that came off of my wife going, I don't think you had much fun this year. And I'm like,
You're a
ain't
man that
earned
needs to
fun.
be a boy a little bit. You
Yeah.
just need to be a boy with the boys.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel that.
And so it's not like we're gonna have time with us.
We did when we ran around that.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
It does.
But I think you say that,
That's
and
good.
I'm
I'm
going
glad.
back
I'm glad
to
you're
like,
doing that though, because that's so important.
and that's what I was about to say. It's important because with your wife saying that, right? I just said it. Our wives are those driving forces, and she noticed something of like she noticed, hey, financially we're good this year. That's great. But my husband's not the husband I expect. It's not that, and my wife has done very similar things in the last few months. It's like, damn, there's just reassurance of why I love you. Like, how did you see that I didn't see? I'm over here focused on making sure ends meet and so on and so on. Like everything that's making sure that you guys are happy,
right.
and happy and everything. And then it's like, it's nice for them to look back and be like, hey, you need to slow the F down.
Did you
and just
say
look
you
at
didn't
yourself.
feel like you earned the fun?
You said you
Right.
didn't have it. Yeah.
If you keep saying
So-
that,
Yeah.
So
you'll never
and that-
earn it.
Right.
Yep.
And so that was a big piece because through that conversation, Ginger was like, what is the enough number? What is the earned
And
number?
as soon as you hit it,
Move the
you know,
goalpost.
That happens every
Uh,
time. So-
And so that was a thing. I said, I'm a big proponent of like setting a word of kind of direction for
Right, of the year,
And I
yep.
think mine's like enjoy.
Nice.
joy in the journey.
Just enjoy it all.
Yeah. What about you? You got goals for 2025?
Yeah, I've actually got KPIs that I've started with me sooner and
So personal
then-
KPIs and sooner KPIs.
yeah, and then I've got a board over here in the hallway, so everyone will be able to keep their 3 to 5. You got to come
Yeah.
up with at least 3, but no more than 5.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. If you want to do it, you can, but I'm going to hold you accountable. Everyone's going to hold you accountable. You put stuff on the board. If you accomplish it, if it's something that's like, oh, I want to do that this year, and you do that, okay, then mark it off.
Mhm.
But I've got health, something to do with health, hobby, family, marriage, and then my kids. And my kids would be like once a month. I did this thing every year where I make gift certificates. I custom make them on Canva and I print them out and I give that to gifts as my kids. And so one of them is to go on a 3-day camping trip and they each get one. The other one is to go to like the Savard Joe's water park and bring one friend.
Yeah.
Let's all go. Let's go have a water park day.
Right.
Like, why not? Let's do this together.
Oh yeah.
And then another one is I'll take you to the movies and you can bring your brother, you can bring mom, and I'll take you to, or you can bring a friend, or it's just me and you.
Right.
It's up to you. We'll go to the movies. The other one is a pizza party. So I'll buy a bunch of pizza. You can have a friend over and I'll hang out with you guys. Another one is a video game night where I'll play video games with you for 4 hours. If you turn in a coupon, there's a few restrictions where I can't redeem it, where I can't accept it. But outside of that, I am majority of the time expected to drop my plans and accept the coupon.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like
come
that.
So it's almost like, hey, I want
Come on,
you, I
Dad.
need you, turn in a coupon.
Yeah, come
I'm
on.
like,
Dad.
all right, I have to figure out every way possible to make this happen.
Yeah.
With marriage, I want to make sure I continue to date my wife once a month out of the house and date her once a month in the house. So once a month, we should be able to spend some time just me and her in the house. Like, let's play some board games.
It's tough
watch a
with them
movie.
littles, bro.
Not after 9:00.
Bro.
Put them to bed.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to stay awake.
And then family wise, I want to make sure that at least once a month we do something together as a family, if not twice. The ideal is twice, but if I can start with one,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can start with
absolutely.
one.
Start where
Absolutely.
you're at.
Which is going to be a book I'm going to write. Starts with one.
Mhm. Come on.
I want to get back to a hobby. I don't have any hobbies.
Oh man,
People are like, "What do you do outside of work?" I'm like, "I don't know."
that's crazy. That's
Like,
literally
Which is dangerous. Like,
that's a
because
big
who
one.
are you?
Yeah.
You
So-
know, what
I don't-
identifies you outside of work?
I don't have much.
Yeah, that's a problem.
You
And then
you started golf, right?
yeah, so yeah, that's actually what I started. So that's my hobby. That's one of my goals. Is I don't know the frequency, but I like to golf maybe once a month
Right.
with a client, with a friend, by myself, something like that. I don't do a whole lot of stuff by myself, so maybe I could do that. And then health wise, so I'm back at the gym. Sooner Goals has revenue, people, process, culture, and
Yep.
projects, and then Brews and Business has the 10x goal of 100K. So downloads and followers.
Nice.
Yep.
You guys have, I feel like a lot, man. So I actually got this from I went to a chamber meeting, and this guy, Eric Bam. I don't know if you guys,
He's incredible.
he's a great speaker. Actually, I loved his thing.
We got an event
He
coming
gave
up
us
together.
an idea. He's got a card that he carries around. I'm sure you know about it, but 5 things that you want and 5 things to do to get what you want. So my 5 things that I want this year, I want to run a 5K in under 30 minutes. I had it last year and I gave up. Like, I don't know why I gave up, but it's not an excuse. It was mine to have.
5K feet?
5K, it's like 3 miles,
3.2
3.3 miles, something like that. It's not a lot.
3.1.
30 minutes is really easy to do. I'm telling you, I had it last year, but I gave up. I think
I'll do it
was
with
like
you.
1st of June. I mean, you can, but I like to run it early in the morning. You can wake up at 5 o'clock to go run with me. Yeah, I know it's rough, but it's about the only time I can run.
He's
every
in
day.
Sapulpa. So it's going to be more than an early
Yeah,
run.
yeah. Pay off a loan that I got to get my house, basically, pay off somebody to help me out, which we're already about 30% on that one. So that's pretty close. And we just started literally December 15th. So we're going. Go camping at least 3 times with just our 5. Last year, for the past 2 years,
When you
we've
go
gone
camping again?
a lot. Right. And
Actual
I've gone
camping.
camping a lot with other people.
Papa Squat camping.
But I haven't gone camping with just my 5. And the last time we went camping, just our 5, we went that year 8 times, just our 5. So to go from like, damn, it seems like we're camping every weekend to having been camping in a couple years alone, there's a disconnect between my family that I feel like, hey, I'm ready to go camping. Monthly dates with my wife and quarterly dates with my girls. And those are the 5 things. That's it. So between that, the quarterly dates is 3 girls. So that's once a month. Should be fairly easy. Kind of did some math behind that. What
Good
do I have to
idea.
do to achieve these goals? Well, I got to pray. I got to run 3 times a week. Spend less money than we make. It's pretty simple. Schedule important dates and read. And it's pretty simple. Like if I can do those 5 things, I should
it's
be
really
able
not
to
that hard.
accomplish.
But if you do that, like those are great
But that's
progressional life things,
Right.
family things, connections. That's
and
so much.
admittedly,
Yeah.
I went back to that. I looked at the core values. Is really kind of where I was like, you know what? I have to start dictating everything in my life for this year. If it doesn't have anything to do with my 5 goals, that can't matter. Like it can't. And it's not that I don't want it to, but if I want to achieve my goals, you have to say no to things that just don't lead you in that direction,
Sure.
And like the camping thing, dude, I want to go. I literally told my friend, he's like, bro, let's go. We went camping last year. I was like, I'm sorry, I have to say no. Like, well, I was like, I'm going to say to no to everyone until I take my family once. Because unless I take my family once, I don't want to say yes to anybody because it just doesn't fit in my goal line. And it's tough, but I look back and then I probably stuck on those goals for 4 or 5 days before I was like, oh, I want to change it to this. I was like, I can't. Like those 5 goals will lead me to that path in 40. And by the time I'm 40, I'll be a runner. I'll be hanging out with my wife and kids. Like I'll be camping more. Like all these things that you got to set up so that time I'm there. So this is the first time I've ever actually set New Year's resolutions or any goals. Like usually I'm planning in September, October, got a whole thing. This year I was like, you know what? We're going to have a different perspective about it. Thanks to Eric, I'm going to pick my 5 goals. I'm going to very simple what I got to do to get those goals. And when I look at him, I'm like, well, shit, that's easy.
Yeah, Eric's incredible.
Yeah.
He and I got an event at the end of the month together.
Nice. Yeah. He was a great speaker. I was very happy I didn't miss that event.
We're like yin and yang.
Yeah.
Very, like he's very, very polished.
Oh yeah.
Suit and tie, type. And so he's brilliant on processes.
He's partners with Mike Bosch.
Oh, him?
Yeah.
Oh, click. Okay.
He's partners with Mike Bosch. He's some pizza dude. He's like Mike's number 2 or whatever.
Yep.
Mike's number 3.
Yep. I know who he is. Yeah.
So,
But
he's great.
I had to picture his face. I'm
Yeah.
like, this name rings a bell.
But anyway, so those are my goals, and I hope you guys accomplish yours. I know, again, it seems like all of ours this year seems to be a lot focused on ourselves and our family. It seems like we all kind of put a lot of focus into our business.
And money doesn't drive the world.
And that's the thing, is like we put a lot of focus into our business, and sure, it was fine. But I think with what your wife has said, conversations we've had over the past few weeks, is like, man, you know what? It's all fine and good. I need to have those seasons, right? The pendulum where it's all about business and it's all about work. But man, I'm fucking tired of this season. I need to love my family for a little bit and have them support you. And then
not having another tangent, but there's no such thing as balance.
Right. There's not.
It's harmony.
Right.
Yeah. Harmony.
It's like music. Imagine if music was
right. Yeah.
No, it'd be boring.
Right.
Yeah.
You need the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And the curves.
Need it all.
Yeah.
And for those of us crazy enough, we blend it all together.
Oh yeah.
Entrepreneurship is
it's a symphony, damn it.
Yeah, you're right.
Passionate enough.
That's right.
Passion. Carl, man, it's good to see you. I'm proud of you.
Man. Yeah, always great to see
always
you.
A blast. In the new offices, new studio.
Man.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been super fun. This is always cool to feel like I'm home.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Glad to have you, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man.
Okay. Well, that's it. That's a good episode.
That was a good episode.
You guys enjoyed that. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, share, tag a friend, something like that below. If there's anybody else you'd like for us to bring on the podcast next year, we've got a pretty extensive guest list. There's like 30 to some odd people on the list. Not everyone's going to make it into next year because we're not doing guests.
Right.
Every episode this year, we're getting a little bit more back to the Brews and business. We have shirts, mugs, all that good stuff. If you guys would like to support, remember, Gregor and Coffee Roasters, the official roaster of the Brews and Business podcast. You can use code BREWS on gregorandcoffeeroasters.com for 10% off. And until next time, appreciate you. And we'll see you again in about 6 months for a check-in.
That's right.
That's right. Come back 6 months.
Yeah.
Watch Kyle again.
All right. See you guys.